Hello, I'm Bruce Zimmerman, and this is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week. March is an important seeding time, and you need to be aware of what to do and when to do it. So when you're seeding, it is always best to get a seed mix. Now, these are usually soilless mixes that have already been pre-pasteurized, not sterilized, but pasteurized. They're a mix that's designed to be moisture retentive and yet will dry out and have some drainage as well. So you're usually looking at a peat base mix with perlite or vermiculite in them, maybe both. And they're designed to do exactly what we said. Keep them moist, allow a little bit of drying out because you want surface drying. This will keep down the problem with damping off. Because a lot of the chemicals you don't have anymore. So you get damping off, you're in big trouble. The other thing is to make sure that the pots, the trays, the light fixture or the windowsill has all been cleaned. This means that you're going to sort of sterilize them. Now, this means just a good kitchen cleaner and you should be fine. The reason you don't want damping off is, well, what happens is it's like a little lumberjack came through and cut down all your seedlings. And it's very devastating because it means that the damping off disease is on the trays, in the soilless mix, etc. So that means you got to start all over again, clean the trays, and new mix. You can't just go and reseed. So it's important that good sanitation is important, a good soilless mix, and then seed. This will be great. Now, there's one other little secret that most people don't do, and that is you put a little fan in one end of your seeding area, and that's important. That fan will give you a little bit of air movement. Now, it doesn't have to be there all the time, but that air movement is getting the stems stronger, thicker, and sturdier, and that's the beginning of getting them hardened off to going outside. You can also do one other thing, and that is you're going to talk to your plants. You're going to come down in the morning, turn on the lights that they're going to be under, and we'll talk about heights and duration. That's important. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your hand and very gently run your hand over the seed trays. And sort of like saying, good morning, guys, and, sort of just rub your hand slightly over them. And what that does is the same thing as a fan. It causes them a little bit of stress, gets them to toughen up, and it keeps them a little shorter. And all of those things are good. You don't want tall, leggy plants, which is why timing of seeding is important. Now, for light, you can use cool white bulbs. That's usually the best. You can go and use a cool white, warm white. You can use grow tubes, which will actually give you the proper light spectrum for growing plants. But any of those combinations will be good. There are people who are purists, and they will put in the cool whites, the warm whites, and then they'll put in a little, maybe 20 watt, 40 watt, or even a 10 watt incandescent bulb. And that's to give you more of the light spectrum, in other words, heat. And it does two things. It helps to germinate a lot of plants because it is in the red part of the spectrum. And so people do that. But it isn't absolutely necessary. But if we're going to talk about heat, remember that Hydrofarm has a heat tray, which has a thermostat available as well. And you can set the temperature of the heat mat. Now, your trays will sit on the heat mat, and you're trying to justify the germination and heat and electricity by temperature. This will give you better and more consistent seed germination, and that's important. If you don't do this, you can sometimes get very erratic seed germination. You're susceptible to the temperatures of the room, okay, of the water, okay. The water you're using should be stood for 24 to 48 hours. It should be at least room temperature, but you may find that certain seeds will germinate at 50 degrees Fahrenheit, others at 60, 70, or even 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're not talking air, we're talking soil. And therefore, the heat tray is actually quite important for more consistent seeding and germination. And you can move it off of the tray, that heat tray, and keep seeding more and more, because once they're up and they're growing and they've got at least one or two sets of true leaves, they don't really need the bottom heat. They're pretty tough, and you'll find that they'll work very well just under the lights. Now, for the duration, you want the cool white bulbs, the warm white bulbs, all the fluorescents that do not generate heat. You want within 4 inches of the top of the plant. This is important, and the reason is it gives you light intensity. This light intensity is very, very important because the farther they go away, light intensity decreases the square of the distance, right? In other words, it drops real fast. So 4 inches is the general rule from the top of the plant once they're germinated. Good. And they will do that 4 inches all the way through. So as the plants get taller, the light fixture still stays 4 inches from the top of the plant or the growing point. This will give you shorter, better plants. Duration time, no more than 12 to 14 hours a day under the lights. They do need the darkness. Speaking of darkness, okay, there is something you should know. Some seed have to be germinated in the dark. So not only will you plant the seed, and some of them actually have to be sat on top of the soil, and the tray has to be actually covered so it's in the dark. Other seed will have to be covered to the depth of the seed. And other seed you're going to have to just cover and leave in light. How are you going to know this? Check the back of the seed package. The seed package has got the information to make you successful at seeding the plants. But there are certain companies that put out extremely good catalogs, particularly Stoke Seeds, Johnny Select Seeds. These are all very, very good, as well as Renee's. So these catalogs will actually give you this type of information. I know you didn't realize that some seed have to be on the soil surface but in the dark. Other has to be covered. Other has to be on the soil or in the soil and under lights in order to germinate. Okay? And it doesn't matter what seed it is, you have to go and take a look. Even with bottom heat, some plants will germinate irregularly. I find this with my hardy orange tree. No matter how many seeds I put in a tray or in a pot or in a cell, they do not germinate at the same time. Bottom heat, light, does not matter. Some will germinate soon. Some will germinate as much as 30 to 45 days after the first one. No pattern. Good luck. And you have to transplant them out. And you do transplant out usually at the first full set of leaves if you have to transplant from a community pot or tray into individuals. And you want to hold on to only the cotyledon. The cotyledon is the first leaf. It's not the true leaf. And you can use a pencil or a dibber to lift it out of the soilless mix that you seeded in and into the potting mix that you've got in the individual trays. Very, very important, as you realize that some plants do need to be transplanted up for long-term growing on as an individual plant. Tomatoes are a great one that can be actually done this way. Some people will find that they'll do directly into a 3-inch cell and then plant directly after hardening off outside. I like to start bigger plants. I start them early, transplant up into larger, say 3-inch cells, and then once they're done, they're up into a 1-gallon pot. Grow them on, get them big, get them out there. The tomato season is, I wait way too long for my first tomatoes. So here's what you need to plant, and the plants that you need to start with in March, okay? Now, this is for all indoor seeding, and if you're going to have a late spring, you may want to delay it 3 to 5 days for seeding so you don't get tall, stretchy plants. If you're having an early season, or at least you think you are, you may want to start them a little earlier. So if you're going to be doing broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, and Chinese cabbage and cauliflower, you want to start them March the 10th to the 20th. Celery is done March 1st to the 10th. Eggplant, March 20th to the 30th. Kale, March 10th to the 20th. Head lettuce and leaf lettuce are done March the 20th to the 30th. Onions, March 15th to the 20th. Peppers, March 1st to the 10th. And tomatoes, March 20th to April 1st. And here's a little thing about tomatoes. If they are determinate tomatoes, they reach a certain height on the plant and they stop growing, then those ones are always germinated first. Okay? The indeterminate, the ones that just keep going and going and going, they'll get really long and leggy indoors, so you'll always see them last. Okay? Very, very important, and it's important that you do that with them. Now, some flowers that you want to do in March. African daisies are done March 20th to the 28th. Alyssum, 15th to the 30th. Amaranthus is 15th to the 20th. Baby's breath and bachelor's buttons are done the last 2 weeks of March, the 15th, basically, until the 30th. Cacti, if you're doing cacti, you can start them anytime in March and April. Calendula are late in the month of March, 20th to the 30th. But Candytuft, the perennial, which is Iberis, I love my perennial Iberis, March 1st to the 20th. Carnations, which is all the dianthus in most cases, March 1st to the 10th. Castor bean, if you're still able to get some seed, remember the seed is poisonous. It has ricin in it, but these are the great big plants that come in red or the green and make great screens, etc. The castor bean is March the 15th to the 20th. Clarkia for March the 1st. Cleome, which is spider flower, not spider plant, but spider flower, March 1st to the 10th. The coleus, you can still start in March. And the nice thing about the late start is you get young, strong plants going outdoors. If you start them earlier, you may have to pinch them and root the pinches because they get too leggy. You may get away with dahlias and dianthus in March. They have a large seeding time from February on into April, but you'll find that that's basically the time to do them. Dusty Miller, everybody loves Dusty Miller. It can be done in March as well. I would like to do it earlier in the month. Gaillardia, the blanket flowers, the March 1st to the 10th. Let's see, Gomphrena is March 1st to the 30th, so anytime in March. The last of the impatiens can be done in early March. If you're growing impatiens, and most people are not now because of the mildew, then watch very carefully, because the mildew will go over on your trays and seed trays if you do get it. And you're going to have to really clean and sterilize afterwards. Almost recommend that you do not grow impatiens. Sun patents is the way to go, but stay away from the regular impatiens. Cochia, the Mexican firebush, March 15th to the 21st. Larkspur and Linaria, both March 1st to the 10th. Lobelia. Now, lobelia is beautiful little flowering, blue usually, some pink, some whites. And they can be done up until about the 15th of March. Matricia and money plant can both be done March 10th to the 20th. Nemesia and Nicosia can be done in early March. Nigella, which is a beautiful little plant, March 1st to the 10th. Pansies. Now, here's one of those ones that have to be on the soil surface and cool and in the dark. March 1st to the 10th. Penstemon, a lot of movement on penstemon now. A lot of new varieties. Some seeded, some from cuttings. March 15th to the 20th. Petunias, you're basically done. If you haven't got them done, I would not do them in March. You're just going to wait way too long. Phlox, this is the tall phlox, and the annual phlox, March 1st to the 10th. Portulaca, you can do now in early March. Rudbeckia, a lot of people like Rudbeckia. Now, this is the annual Rudbeckia, not the perennial one. It can be done March 10th to the 20th. Scabiosa, March 10th to the 20th. And Status and Stalks in early March 1st to the 10th. Straw flowers, March 10th to the 20th. For those of you who want to do them as dried cut flowers for straw flowers, this is the one and the time to seed them. Sweet William, which is a beautiful plant. It is a biennial, but spread the seeds whenever they finish flowering in your garden, and you'll get some more and keep going year after year. March 1st to the 10th to seed those. Zinnias, not until April. You want to get them in and don't start them ahead of that. Because of course, mildew and legginess, and they love the sun and the heat. One other one that you can do is the vinca, which is the Madagascar periwinkle. This is not the evergreen one you have out in your yard, which is considered an invasive weed. This is the Madagascar periwinkle, and it can be done up until the 15th of March. Remember, it cannot go out when the soil temperature is cold. It hates cold feet. It'll die, or it'll sit there and pout. And I do mean pout if you plant it out when the soil is too cool. So there you go. Some seeding and plants that you can do in March. So it's time. Get out there, get going, and get planting your garden for this year. This is the podcast from the Open Line Garden Show for this week.